Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the video. I'm GetGoodGuy, and I played the Call of Duty Modern Warfare beta until I believe the max available rank at the time. And that was on Xbox in case you're interested. So I got some decent time in to experience what the game is about and work out the potential good and bad. Pair that with around 20 years of FPS game experience and well, I have some thoughts. Today I'm kicking things off with what I hate about the early signs, as well as just some other negatives I can think of. It is all my opinion, so of course you may disagree with certain aspects, and that's totally fine, and I'll follow this up with another video about what I love about the beta. Full disclosure though, I came away from the beta pretty optimistic overall that I'm going to really enjoy the full game. The more I played, the more I liked it. I just wanted to hit the bad stuff today and then round out my initial coverage with the good stuff another day. And be sure you leave a comment about what you do or don't like about Modern Warfare so far. I'd be interested to see what you guys think. Now, if you're here from purely a Battlefield player's perspective, I'll also be releasing a video about why Modern Warfare isn't a straight Battlefield replacement, so keep your eyes out for that as well. A subscription will help you to do so. But back to today, the gameplay in the background won't be highly edited. I want you to see what my actual experience was like. And although I did pretty well in the beta overall, you'll definitely be able to tell at times that I was super rusty on COD, making some bad errors and trying to relearn how to play. But on the whole, I was pretty successful thankfully. So my first point of caution or displeasure is, and I'll try not to take too long on each of these points, the PlayStation exclusive mode announcement we recently received. Spec Ops is making its way back with Modern Warfare, that being a cooperative mode doing various missions or challenges and such like. But a specific part of it, known as Survival Mode, will be a PlayStation exclusive until October 2020, which basically means the game's entire lifespan, because around then a new Call of Duty will likely release anyway. I really don't like this. I know there are bonuses due to financial backing and such like, but this one is egregious when you consider the consumer that buys supposedly the same product for the same price, but doesn't have a mode in the game for an entire year, by which point the game is basically outdated. I'm not impressed. And we may as well lump in the rumors about supply drops or loot boxes or whatever you want to call them. We don't know if they will be introduced into the game, but there's a lot of speculation that they will. We've definitely seen them before in Call of Duty, and if that happens then I'll be disappointed but not surprised. They make a lot of money, so I get it, but this is a solid game so far for me, from my standpoint, so it would really water down the experience a lot if they implemented supply drops. Next up, I think certain aspects of the sound design are pretty terrible. Yes, you can tweak certain things in the settings to mitigate some issues, but not all. And with default settings, the audio experience is something like masses of bass, some from in-game noise and some from music and effects, constant announcer noise that covers the sound of potential danger around you, and worst of all, something that doesn't seem to properly alter regardless of your settings or equipment. Footsteps and other such audio cues are at best inconsistent and at worst downright useless. You sometimes don't hear them at all, other times ally footsteps are a near constant distraction and the directionality and distance of sound is near unfathomable. Is the enemy right next to you or 20 meters away? You honestly sometimes don't know. Fixes for this would vastly improve the game from my and many others' perspective. Moving on, although I like the aesthetic of the game, and I do feel it's a step up visually in some departments when compared with previous Call of Duty titles, I can't be as positive about other aspects of the visual experience. The main issue being that it appears muddy and unclear at mid to long range. Things can kind of just blend together. There's no clarity or sharpness there. I'm not sure if this can or will be improved for the full release, to be honest, and it was a definite black mark for me. It was less of an issue on certain maps, such as on the indoor training arena or whatever it was from the gunfight mode. Because everything is so simple in there, well, there's no problem. But detailed maps, such as the one in a forest, well, it's just a bit of a blurry mess sometimes. Again, this can be improved somewhat with some settings tweaks, but the problem is built into the game. I'm really happy that the enemy's name pops up when you aim at them, otherwise this could have been a far larger issue, kind of like Battlefield 5 has, where enemies simply blend into the environment a lot. Right, moving on. I'll try to start hitting on these aspects a little faster. I'm not a fan of parts of the environment being potentially lethal. By that I mean explosive barrels and vehicles, and not in the sense that they can be shot and blown up. That's perfectly fine. What I'm talking about is that they may take damage and the game seemingly waits for a player to then walk by that that vehicle, for example, and then blow up. I doubt this is a hard rule as such, but it does seem to happen. Twice to me, in fact, in the beta, and I've seen other footage of it as well. It's something that's been in the series for a long time. I can remember it from way back in other Call of Duties, and I just don't like it. If I'm wrong and it's just random chance when they blow up, then that's not as bad. I feel it would just be better to have such things have a damage threshold at which they blow up, and that's it. No time delayed explosions or anything like that. Okay, so the time to kill, how many bullets it takes to kill someone. It's very fast. I started off not liking it at all and eventually came to like it quite a lot in the end. I gave it some time and it grew on me. For straight up gunfights, I don't mind it at all. I quite enjoy that if you react quickly or position well, then you can mow enemies down in quick succession. What I don't like though is how it affects the way the game is actually played a lot of the time. Camping or extremely passive play is very, very commonplace. And I don't mean strategic positioning or anything like that. I mean straight up camping everywhere. The way the maps are, combined with the time to kill being very fast, well, it causes issues. To the point that I simply filtered out team deathmatch as an option. As with no incentive to move, well, a lot of people simply didn't, which wound up with me either being bored or constantly killed if I tried to move seemingly anywhere. And I'm really not talking about people holding down areas, I mean just straight up camping one spot. I don't know how you can fix this, maybe you can't, but it seemed relevant to mention it. Would adding an extra bullet to the time to kill help? Potentially so, maybe a little, but it would need serious testing to make sure it doesn't mess up how the gunfights feel, and overall this just might be a Call of Duty problem where there's nothing you can do about it. People are gonna play how they want to play, and I guess that's up to them, but it would be nice if the game didn't cement it as being a top tier tactic. You can also add into this issue that there are other punishments for playing a movement-based style. Some of them can be helped by loadout choices and perks, but overall movement feels a little slow and clunky to me when compared with other FPS titles. Sprint out time is a little meh, ADS after sprint is meh, mantling is kinda slow, etc. So this all appears to play into a very passive mentality. A bit of smoothing out of these issues would be fantastic. And it's not as if you can't be aggressive, of course, because you can. It just feels a tad awkward at times, at least on console. Maybe not so much with mouse and keyboard, I'm not sure, but I feel like there's been an effort to slow things down a bit and make the experience more tactical, and that's fine, but just a bit of balancing would help. So next, spawns suck. This shouldn't be a huge surprise in a Call of Duty game, but I had multiple experiences of spawning in and instantly shooting an enemy, or spawning in and instantly being killed by an enemy, sometimes from behind. There needs to be an alteration to that. The more that can be done to improve this problem that never really fully goes away in COD, well, the better. Instant deaths aren't fun, especially if the death you suffered before that instant death felt cheap as well. It's double punishment and sucks the fun away. And nobody wants to be killed by a guy who suddenly just appears right in front of you as well. And while we're talking about spawns, they've implemented the Battlefield fly down from the sky thing, which is cool. I like it. It's a nice animation. But for competitive or rank play or whatever, that could cause some issues, as you're sometimes getting a lot of information about your surroundings there, perhaps unfairly for the opposition. Now, while we talk about issues that are almost ever present in COD, let's do latency, or networking. This is probably unfair to drop onto Call of Duty specifically, as it's an issue in essentially all multiplayer experiences, but things just don't always line up, either due to straight up latency or other such networking issues. But Call of Duty has, at least in the past, been one of the main offenders. I could go into tick rates and all that kind of stuff, but let's just keep it simple. The reliability of the gunfights was reasonable for me, but apparently not for others, and latency is still an issue, and it's something you should be aware of. I feel it would be dishonest not to mention it in a video such as this. Hopefully it all ends up nice and smoothed out long term. I would also like areas of the map to be brightened up. It's a similar story to Battlefield 1 and 5, although not as bad, but dark corners and such like aren't conducive to good gameplay. Allowing people to sit still and remain unseen when really they should be entirely visible isn't okay. Realism affects gameplay, especially when that supposed realism isn't even realistic and seems wildly exaggerated. People indoors and windows don't need to be shrouded in darkness, and walking inside from the outside doesn't need to cause everything to go super dark for a brief moment. Some, again, supposedly realistic aspects can be left out. I'll add the amount of fall damage to that as well. Don't completely get rid of it, but tweak it. Jumping from the railings to the floor below in Ground War didn't look like a lethal drop at all. In fact, I could do that in real life and I would damn sure survive. But in this game, I died. I don't find that to be necessary. Not if, again, you don't want the game to play extremely slowly at nearly all times. I would also remove the black and white might filter when you take damage, or at least reduce it. The time to kill is so fast in this game, and there's already such a punishment for trying to play a movement-based style against very passive players. What isn't needed is further punishment for being shot. If you die in 3 or 4 bullets and the guns fire this quickly and this straight, we don't need a further nerf to our ability to contest that fight. The black and white effect makes it far too hard to see, and you're already being shot. Okay, onwards. I was disappointed to find there's no field of view option on console. I don't know if this is due to the performance of the Xbox and PlayStation, such as on Destiny 2, but it made things feel kinda claustrophobic, zoomed in, and limiting. So I don't know if they can do anything about that, but it would be great if they could, and it kinda sucks that I know if I loaded up COD on my PC right here, I wouldn't have to deal with that issue. Let's do recoil. Recoil was weird, and I don't know if I liked it or not, but how it felt to me was as if there's extremely high visual recoil on some weapons, but the bullets go super straight, so it looks like the gun is kicking everywhere, but you're shooting dead center. I'm not used to it, it was odd, and I could indeed be wrong, and it's not necessarily a negative, but I thought I'd mention it as it may take some time for others to get used to it as well, as it does seem a little strange. Okay, so specifically on Ground War, having come from Battlefield, that mode is super lacking in features, which isn't really a surprise as it's just one mode in Call of Duty and it's their first real attempt at it, and I did actually end up having some fun on it to be fair, but it doesn't feel polished to me. It won't mesh well with a lot of Battlefield players even if they expect it to just by looking at it, and some COD players are going to find it wildly chaotic, and it would benefit massively from some team play elements such as revives, a squad based system and all that kind of stuff. And finally, and this is purely a totally opinion-based one, but I didn't vibe with realism mode, and that means that some other people won't as well. Perhaps I will come to like it with more playtime and some tweaks, but the lack of reliable audio feedback, the time to kill, the lack of a minimap causing me to be checking if noises are teammates or not all the time, stuff like that, I just didn't like it. Hopefully my mind will be changed. But that is everything I hated in the Modern Warfare beta, as well as just some possible negatives, and overall potentially concerning signs. But as I stated earlier, I ended up having a really good time on it overall. So be sure to keep an eye out for a follow-up video about what I loved in the beta. Turning on notifications will help you to do that, of course. Now, like if you enjoyed the video, it really does mean a hell of a lot to me. Be sure to leave a comment about what you do or don't like about the game. Subscribe for more, follow me on Mixer for streams, the link is in the description, and while you're down there, also feel free to join my Discord server. Here's the Board of Awesome for the epic people who support the channel on Patreon. They're all absolute heroes and love them all deeply and of course, often. If you want to join them on the Board of Awesome, the link to the Patreon page is in the description and my pinned comment. And with that all said, I'm GetGoodGuy and I'll see you next time. Laters.
Why do my thumbs feel slippy, dude? I keep struggling with this issue. Wait. Oh, okay. You can't jump from that far. Okay, the more you know. So that's a slightly awkward start. I see him. Fight me, dude. You didn't fight me, you just stood there. But that's fine. I can deal with that.